Hello guys and welcome to today's workshop training. Today we're going to be talking about administrative units on Microsoft Entra. Let us begin with this analogy. Imagine you work in a large organization that has members of staff, resources and assets across different parts of the world. You would agree with me that one of the best way of managing these resources, staff members and facilities effectively will be by segmenting them into different units. So the units could come in form of region, it could be in form of continent, it could be in form of country, cities, or whatever you want to use to define your unit. So basically that is what administrative unit does for us on Microsoft Entra ID directory. So it helps us segment our resources into different administrative units to aid effective control of these units and resources. So basically an administrative unit on Microsoft Entra is a resource that can be a container for other Microsoft resources like users, groups, and devices. And what this means is that organizations can delegate administrative control over specific subsets of their users, groups, and devices to certain individuals and groups to manage. This allows for effective management and control while also maintaining centralized security and administration over the whole directory itself. So units here are to be defined by the organization. Units could come in form of region, like where the region in which our staffs are working from, or devices are being located at, or resources are being hosted at. Could also be in form of cities. Could also be in form of cities like Lagos City, or users working at Lagos, or users working at Uyo. We can create administrative units for those different cities. Could also come in form of devices, like what sort of devices are these people using. Could be, let's group our Windows devices together, let's group our Linux devices together. The units can also be based on department, maybe the HR department, the IT department, business department, whatsoever. But in essence, the organization defines how they segment the unit. The unit is to be defined by them. So guys, there are a couple more things I would like to speak about concerning administrative units, but due to time constraints, I'll just keep it short and put a link for you to continue your reading, and also add a few more notes on the caption for you to follow along. So let's head over to our workshop session. So guys, welcome to our workshop environment. We are going to be creating an administrative unit. So you can easily just come to the left panel of your screen and click on admin unit here. Or alternatively, you can also use this search option to find administrative units and click when you see the option. So you can just click from here now. We're going to click add. Then we're going to simply give it a name. It's important you give your administrative unit a name. So we're going to call this IT support, then add Uyo. So the unit you are creating is for a city. You want to group a specific subset of our users by the current city in which they are in. So we're just going to describe this as for IT support staffs in Uyo. So you can click on this restricted management administrative unit toggle to either yes or no. If you put it in yes, what that means is that tenant-wide administrators will not have access to this administrative unit. But if it is left in no, what that means is that tenant-wide administrators would have access to this administrative unit. So we're just going to click on next to assign a user role to an administrator on this administrative unit. So let's say we want to give our user the help desk administrator role. We're simply just going to click on it in order to assign it to a user we want to assign it to. So this help desk administrator, what the role does is that it basically allows a user who has this role or privilege to be able to reset passwords for people under his or her scope of management. So we want to give this role to one of our users called Joy. So that's Joy. We're just going to click on Joy and add that role to her. So we're going to click on add now. So we've added that and basically we are done now. So next thing we're going to do is for us to click in next review and create our administrative unit. So we've clicked on that now. We're just going to click on create so that we can create the admin unit itself. So let's just wait while the administrative unit creates. So we can see here now, this is our administrative unit. We don't have users yet in our admin unit. So we can either add users manually, that's by assigning them to this group, or we can also just turn this administrative unit to a dynamic administrative unit. And what that will mean is that each user that meets the requirement of belonging to this admin unit would automatically be cached by the admin unit to belong to this administrative unit. So that is what I want to do for this administrative unit. I want it to be a dynamic one. And if you had watched our previous video on dynamic membership rules or groups, what we did was we added a query. Now what that means is that if users meet the requirement of belonging to this group by having the query I'm going to put here, then by default those users will be added to this admin unit. So I'm just going to add a simple query here. So each user whose city property shows Uyo should be cached into this administrative unit. That's what I'm going to do here. So we've done that, right? Then I'm also going to choose the first property here, which is that this account must also be an enabled account, right? So we don't want on accounts that are not enabled in our group, right? So we're just going to put that here. So we are done now. We're just going to click on we're going to click on save to configure our role. So we've done that now. We're just going to click on save to make that a policy for this administrative unit. So we've done that now. Yes. So while we wait for this rule to update, so it has updated now. So we're just going to refresh our administrative unit now to see if the rule has cached users so meet the requirement to belong to this administrative unit. So we're just going to refresh now and see if the users have been cached into our administrative unit. So yes, we can see that we now have 7 users in our administrative unit, which means that these users met the requirement for belonging to this administrative unit. So we're just going to go ahead now to log into our administrator's account for this admin unit to see if that user can actually perform the roles and function of the user role the user was given. So let's just log in the user's account here. So for us to do this, we are going to log into the website called mystaff.microsoft.com. So upon coming in here, we're going to sign into our user's account, then see if the user has that role to administer on the different users in this administrative unit. And note, you can always add as many roles you want to a particular user or group, but just since this is a workshop session, one is enough for us to test what we want to do. So we can see now here that we are in the administrative unit called IT Support Uyo. So we are going to see what Joy can do here to all the users that belong to this admin unit. So we can see all the users here. Let's just click on one. So we can see here that Joy has the right to reset password for Blessing Williams and every other person that belongs to this administrative unit. And this is very good because when you give a user a role and also scope that role to a particular administrative unit, that user can only use that role for just that administrative unit alone. But if you give a user a role without assigning them to an admin unit, the scope of that role is the entire domain or directory. So simply now we can reset this password. We can easily just copy this and mail it to Blessing or send it to this user in whatever medium we want to send it to the user. So guys, we have come to the end of our workshop session. So please don't forget to like, share and comment on this video so that this video will reach new audiences who like materials like this. Cheers guys, till some other time.